wanted to make a video to tell you a little bit more about my Vivian inspired costume from Dragon Age Inquisition. Naturally drawn towards any female character that is really strong and fierce and independent, and Vivian is hands down all of those things. I also like to choose characters that have very interesting designs that I think are nice. They're very, normally tend to be more regal looking and just really well put together, and just something that's elaborate and ornate. It came to a point where the game wasn't out yet and there were so many different costumes and ideas that I could have done for her, and I wanted to keep it very true to her in-game character. So there were a few key things that I really wanted to focus on with the Vivian costume, and the first one, which I think is the most notable, is her headdress. It just stands out, and I think it's like really the focal point of her costume. Another thing I really wanted to stay true to with Vivian's design was her color palette. So in the character kit, when you look at her high-res photos, you see a lot of muted colors. It's like white, black, gray, a little bit of beige. I wanted to at least keep it the color scheme of Vivian. So when I decided what kind of key concept I wanted for the character, what I wanted to keep and what I thought I could kind of do without or transform a little bit, we did a like 4 or 5 different images of each layer, because in the end I think we ended up with like 6 different layers for Vivian. It's a pretty complex costume. When we finished making a concept sketch that helped us kind of decide what we were going to have to buy and purchase, we went on like an epic weekend shopping trip. We actually found the perfect pattern for the Vivian jacket in the upholstery section. And also I found like a chainmail belt that I used for the headdress, and that was also like a huge score. I was really, really happy about that purchase. So for me, I think that 2 of the hardest and most complicated parts of the costume were figuring out what we were going to do with the headdress, and also figuring out the armor on the legs and the back. We used chainmail for the fancy embellishments right here instead of building something from scratch, and it looks really nice, and it's really, really pretty. And then we used these giant foam horns that used joint compound to smooth it out, and that was all Shirley. Like, Shirley just showed up randomly and gave them to me, and she was like, "Hey, I heard you needed some horns, here you go." And I was like, what? And it was a very happy friendship moment. And another thing that was really difficult for me to plan out was the armor and how to do the embellishments on the armor. We kind of looked around and we were like, you know what, we can do this. There's like a really cool white opaque resin that dries really clean, and it'll look perfect for the costume. It's exactly what's on the costume. And I was like, okay, let's do it. If I had to break down our costume production process, I would probably break it down into 4 different steps. The first step would be the fabric construction, so basically like 80% of the costume. The second step was the armor / resin making. Pretty much all of that was done in like a couple days. And then the third step was the headdress, creating the horn-like structure and figuring out how we were going to incorporate a wig into it. And then the fourth step was actually super last minute. It was the day of the photo shoot. I had like this little toy staff, and I was like, hey, do you think we can create this staff into something that, you know, you would see in Dragon Age? And we thought about it and we're like, you know what, why not, let's do it. Like, we have a couple hours before the photo shoot, we can use some Warbler, we can make this. These are things that I use on every single costume. My handy dandy utility blade. It is perfect for everything. The other is a heat gun. Like, if you guys do not have a heat gun, you need to invest in one. They're really cheap, actually. Well, they can be really cheap. They can also be really expensive, but this one's really cheap, and it has done a magnificent job. Industrial Velcro, always, always, always have industrial Velcro, especially when you're at a convention and you need an easy fix. I use hot glue a lot for, especially when I'm making armor. I do it for the craft foam before I put Warbler over it, or sometimes I leave the Warbler out. E6000, get it. E6000 is the best glue I've ever used. I use it for almost everything except for when I'm using hot glue for my costume, question mark? Okay, so that's pretty much it. I just wanted to share a little bit about my Vivian costume, how I created it, how I came up with the idea. And now, Dragon Age Inquisition is out, and if you guys are playing it, let me know, because we could play together. The multiplayer, I believe, is up to 4 players, so we totally could do that. I'm gonna go play now. Bye!